We are ranking every single first boss battle in the Super Mario series, and I'm talking every single game, 2D, 3D, mainline, spin-off, every Mario game that Mario technically appears in, and that is a total of 57 different games. Yes, we're going through 57 boss battles and ranking them from the worst to the best. Now, this criteria is definitely based on my own opinion, so of course, it is completely okay for you to disagree. I mean, overall, there's like 57 different bosses here, so we're gonna have a completely different list no matter who you ask. But I'm basing these bosses off of the atmosphere, the music, and also how you complete the boss battle, meaning how we take out the boss. I also want to state real quick that mini bosses will not be included, and it will be the first main boss that I feel like is the first main boss for each game. It'll kind of be different depending on the games, and I'll talk about them when I get there. I also will not make entries for remakes either. Even Mario 64, both Mario 64 and Mario 64 DS are going to technically be the same here. There's a slight moveset difference, but overall, I'm going to keep them together. So before we get started, stop what you're doing because this was a very long video to make, and if you enjoy content like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, as a lot of you right now are not yet subscribed. It'll only take a second, just do so before we get started. Thank you guys so much for your support. Now, let's jump into the list of every single first boss ranked within the Mario series. Starting our list off at number 57, we have Mario Party Star Rush's Mega Goomba. I told you we're diving deep here. So with this boss battle, you don't even fight the boss really. It's just about picking up the apples that are sitting by the giant Goomba and running them back. And then he occasionally tries to jump after you, but there's really no boss fight here, so that is why it's probably one of the worst ones to start the game with. A lot of people are going to take offense to this one just because it's the first game in the Mario franchise, but the original Mario Brothers Bowser boss fight is not only very easy, but you don't even really fight Bowser. You're just running past him and dropping the drawbridge. I'm never really a big fan of these boss battles, so a lot of these are going to be at the bottom of the list, and this was just not that interesting. It just didn't age well, and I think it's a boring boss battle. Next up, we have Mario Brothers The Lost Levels Bowser boss battle, and it's pretty much the same exact thing. It just has a new art style and a new stylization, and I actually just like the atmosphere a little bit better. That's the only real reason it gets a slight upper hand. Next up, we have King Totomesu from Mario Land, which is ideally the same thing as the Bowser boss fights, but it's a little different than what we always get in the Mario franchise. You're actually fighting like a Sphinx lion that's jumping up and down and breathing fire constantly, making it slightly more difficult and a little bit more engaging than the Bowser ones. And New Super Mario Bros. DS does the same exact thing, but it just looks a lot cleaner and better than the originals. They just kind of upped it and made it look a lot more, interesting than what it is. It's still a very boring boss battle with the same premise, but it just looks a lot cooler. Now we move into the territory of actually touching the bosses with King Bob-omb, where we get to pick them up and then put them back down on the ground 3 times. It's incredibly easy, and it's just kind of weird how this was even a boss battle. I think all of us at the very first time playing this thought we were supposed to throw him off the mountain, but just setting him back down on the ground was just pretty underwhelming. Number 51, we have Bowser from Mario RPG, which is an incredibly easy boss battle. Nothing really interesting happens here, and it's just kind of going back and forth and learning the ropes and how the game actually works. Practicing your attacks and also your dodges, as you guys are both doing very basic attacks against each other. Number 50, we have the lightning statue from Mario Golf Super Rush, which is just kind of moving out of the way and then standing in a circle and timing a button press in order to hit a electric ball like a golf ball back at him. It's pretty basic and pretty boring, honestly, but at the same time, at least it's something for a golf game. I mean, how do you make a good boss battle for a golf game? They did what they could. Number 49, we have Bird from Mario Land 2. No joke, his name is Bird, and he just kind of swoops back and forth from the left and right sides of the screen, and all you have to do is jump on his head as he flies by. That's really it. That's the only real attack that he'll do. It's a pretty basic and boring boss fight. Next up, we have Lakitu from Mario Party 9, where you have to dodge all of his spinies and hit the bullet bill blocks in order to get a certain amount of bullet bills to rush him, which is a pretty cool concept for a minigame. It's not that hard or anything. Of course, it's Mario Party, but it's not terrible. Mega Goomba from Mario Party 10 is also a very easy boss battle minigame to start this game, where you just climb up a ladder and jump on a giant Goomba's head as he's slowly walking back and forth. That's about it. The only thing that you're possibly trying to dodge is the waddle wing that's flying back and forth, but for the most part, it's incredibly basic. Number 46, we have Bert the Bashful from the original Yoshi's Island, where all you have to do is chuck eggs at this guy as he's jumping towards you. You don't really have to move out of the way or do any real dodging because it's just so incredibly easy to hit this giant balloon of an enemy. There's no real skill required to take this guy down. Number 45 is the return of Bert the Bastful in Yoshi's Island DS, and it's pretty much the exact same boss fight, but this time there's 2 of them, and it doesn't really matter which one you hit, which is also very weird for some reason. It was kind of hard to tell what would be the first official boss for Luigi's Mansion 3, but technically all the portrait ghosts are actually called boss ghosts in this game, so technically Steward would be the first one, which isn't that hard at all. Tries to chuck luggage at you, and you just kind of move out of the way and then flash him with your light, and then you're able to deal tons of damage. It just kind of gets you into the game. It's nowhere near a terrible boss battle considering how many boss ghosts are in this game. It just kind of gets you into the game. Next up we have Iggy from Super Mario World, which is just kind of boring because all you have to do is jump on him to knock him off the platform. It's not terrible, however, because at least this time it's not jumping on his head 3 times. It's actually trying to move him. But if you're just any type of coordinated, you can knock him off with like a couple of bounces, and all he does is chuck a bouncy ball at you. Midnight is the official first real boss battle of Sparks of Hope, and I know a lot of people love this character, but the boss battle itself against her is just not good at all. If anything, it doesn't even feel like I'm fighting her, as I'm mostly fighting enemies to get to her, and her attacks are very minor. It's just kind of her going invisible and hiding and kind of warping around the stage, and that's about as far as it goes. Number 41, we have the Goomba Tower from Mario Party Island Tour. This one actually is a boss battle, and it isn't terrible. These Goombas run into the stage and line up on each other, allowing you to knock them down with an apple and then line them up with another one in order to finish them off. It's nowhere near that difficult, but it is a little more unique than what we've been seeing, especially from the Mario Party series. And coming in at number 40, we have Piranha Plant from Mario Party DS, which a lot of people hate this one because it's just so difficult for a lot of people. I don't know how. To me, it wasn't that bad, but I've read a lot of comments of people just not liking this boss battle. But you just move around and grab bomb seeds and chuck them in his mouth. It's nothing super crazy, but I feel like a lot of people have said this was a very annoying boss battle, and I guess it's just because you're slamming A lot in order to fly up. Next up, we have 3 Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, so I'm just going to get them all out in a row in one swoop. So number 39, we have Miniland Mayhem, which is kind of just building a path all the way to the top to Donkey Kong. It's not terrible, but it's just very slow and very boring. Minnie's March again is a wheel game where you spin this wheel cannon and shoot Donkey Kong out of the areas that he's popping out from. And I put Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2 above this because it technically did this first, and I felt like it just had more effort given in it. I can't explain it, it just looks and feels better than the, Minnie's March Again version. The Pie-Rabbit Plant and Mario & Rabbids Kingdom battle was kind of enjoyable because at least they ran around and used different attacks like its wand in order to have different status effects on your crew and stuff and chased you around the battlefield. And there was also like bomb blocks that you could blow up to have some cool like domino effect sequences blowing up the rabbits. So I thought it was pretty unique compared to Midnight in Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, but that's just me. Next up we have Roy from New Super Mario Bros. 2. This one is very easy, but there's just something that's a lot better about it considering the fact that at least it has invincibility frames and it goes into its shell. Overall, the boss fight isn't anything that special. He tries to charge at you and also shoot beams of energy at you, but that's pretty much it. The hardest part is actually just the walls closing in on you. Larry from Super Mario Bros. Wii is slightly better. At least the platforms are moving and he's actively pursuing you, jumping up and down very high and shooting more projectiles, which makes him a little bit more interesting and there's a little bit more going on here. Next up, we have Larry from Super Mario Bros. 3, which is a little bit more engaging. At least he tries to chase you and jumps around the stage, and when he jumps around with his shell, it can be very easy to hit you, making it a little bit more intense than normal. Also, he shoots lots of projectiles out of his wand, which will definitely keep you on your toes. Morton from Paper Mario Color Splash really just comes down between 2 different attacks that you have to use. 1, using your hammer to knock the platform from underneath them, and then 2, using the fire extinguisher card in order to put out his flaming hammer. Now this is kind of unique, but at the end of the day, this is kind of how all the bosses work in Sticker Star and Color Splash, where all you need is a specific type of card or sticker thing item. So yeah, it's just kind of like, For a Yoshi game, it was actually a breath of fresh air to see an original boss battle besides Bert the Bastful to start the game off, but Big Beanie was actually kind of interesting. You had to dodge these giant spiked vines and wait for him to drop his wall barrier down in order for you to hit him, which meant you couldn't just sit there and spam eggs at the boss. You had to wait for a specific time, and the only way to get eggs was when he spit out beans at you, which is actually not terrible. Do not ask me why I chose Destruction Dance against Waluigi at number 30, when technically you're not even really fighting him and it's incredibly easy. Well, listen, It's actually not terrible, and I'm telling you right now, this is actually fun as far as a dance game goes, because technically you're battling as you're also having to step on these fireballs that try to fly up from Waluigi hitting them, and if you miss that arrow, it'll actually hit your bomb, making you lose health. So this is actually kind of interesting, and I found it kind of fun to just play around and dance with Waluigi. I mean, come on, look at these moves. Next up, we have Tollstar from Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga at 29. There's some attacks that you actually have to dodge from him. It kind of gets you into the game by showing you how you have to dodge with both Mario and Luigi and just read different attack patterns, and it's not terrible. It actually kind of gets you started, so really not a terrible boss battle. Number 28, I chose the Big City DK as the first real boss battle, as it kind of goes along with how you'll fight Donkey Kong the rest of the time. In Donkey Kong 94, it's actually a unique way. You actually have to grab one of the barrels, and you can even flip Mario over and roll him over as well, and take him to the top in order to chuck these barrels at Donkey Kong where you actually have to hit him, which can be kind of fun. In Mario vs. Donkey Kong, it's really the same premise, but it adds a little bit more by having a lot more falling projectiles that Mario can block with his feet, and also Donkey Kong has different colored switches where he can change the platforms that appear. Next up, we have Petey Piranha in Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, and he's kind of a threat. He likes to try to approach and swing his arms in order to hit you, and also there's a cool scene where he's running at you from the background, but this was already done in Dream Team, which makes it feel a little repetitive. His attacks are just kind of boring and non-inspired, which doesn't put him higher. Now technically, Dream Team's first boss is like an Phantasma ghost down in the basement of Pilo Castle, but I wanted to actually make it grow by, as it felt like the first true end of chapter boss battle. This is very reminiscent of the Petey Piranha boss battle from Paper Jam, but this game did it first, where it utilizes the background to fight, which is kind of fun as well. We have Bert the Bashful making a return again in Woolly World, but this one was kind of interesting to me, not just because you could lick the strings off his pants to pull him down, but the fact that there was also different copies of him that if you hit those, it wouldn't do anything. You had to carefully aim and hit the real one, which actually took a little bit of skill, and you had to pull his pants down at the same time, which actually added some depth, believe it or not, to a Yoshi game. I actually did not mind this boss battle and actually found it to be kind of fun. Number 23, we have Petey Piranha taking a different appearance here in Mario Pinball Land, but this one I always kind of found very just addicting. I don't know what it is. It's not that difficult, and it's not that intense or anything at all, but you just kind of roll around the arena and make Petey Piranha turn his head so that way you can slingshot yourself at his stomach. It's actually a lot more fun to actually play than watch this. Trust me, I actually had a blast with this boss battle. Why is Lemmy from New Super Mario Bros. U even this high? Well, I kind of have a soft spot for Lemmy. He's like this little Bowser Jr. baby, and he throws these bouncy balls and is always on a bouncy ball. And I always found his boss battles to be the most interesting because the ball itself literally adds so much more to the Koopalings, considering the fact that none of the other ones have anything special. So kind of dodging him around the room, and also the fact that he can throw bouncy bombs as well, was always pretty interesting to me, and I felt like this boss battle really wasn't terrible, and for the first one of the game, not bad at all. Petey Piranha makes a return in Super Princess Peach, and I always found this one kind of interesting because it's the same kind of way that he works in Mario Sunshine, where you have to fill his mouth with water, but Peach can fill his mouth with tears. Yeah, it's weird, but yeah, you can actually cry on a little seed in order to grow it into a vine, climb up to the top of the vine, and actually cry in Petey Piranha's mouth, which is kind of unique, and then jumping on his stomach. Not terrible for a first boss for sure. For number 20, would you even believe it if I said he's coming back? Yep, Petey Piranha once again. This wasn't terrible either. This was actually playing a tennis match against Petey Piranha and eventually knocking him over and then smashing a tennis ball against his big belly button again. Once again, a nice callback to Sunshine, which I always like. He also has a callback by his little tornadoes that he can shoot at you or Millie Rock at you, and it's a really cool thing to dodge. You can flip over them or you can just find the gap. I always found this pretty interesting. Number 19, we have Mauser. Now, once again, this might be one where a lot of you guys wonder, why is Mauser this high? Well, it's a little different, and it's a little unique than just jumping on an enemy's head. You have to pick up these bombs and toss them on the little platform that he's on in order for them to detonate and blow up on him, which is actually kind of unique for a game that old. Now, I know the Bowser battle in Mario 3D Land is pretty basic overall. It's once again just getting past him in order to hit the switch, but I like the atmosphere around it. I like how Bowser's jumping around, moving around, has that giant tail, even though it's technically a fake Bowser, but he's breathing fire at you, chasing you all the way along the boardwalk and trying to stop you from getting to that switch, which is something that he never did, even in the 2D games. Bully in Mario Kart DS can be seriously one of the easiest bosses ever, but come on. You're using mushrooms and just trying to bounce the bully off the stage in a Mario Kart game. You're driving into him. This was just pretty cool. I don't care how easy it is. This is fun to play. Next up, we have Tin Can Condor from Yoshi's Crafted World, which is just a horrible name. It just sounds like a horrible joke. But you actually have to grab a magnet to toss it onto his can body to bring him down to the ground, which is kind of unique for a boss battle. Then once he's on the ground, you get to slam on his head and finish him off, which I thought was pretty good. Number 15, we have Chauncey from Luigi's Mansion, which was the technical first boss of the game, as the portrait ghosts aren't really bosses technically. But this boss battle was very, very strange and very creepy as well. I love the atmosphere of the flying rocking horses coming towards you and this baby chasing you with his rattle. You have to pick up one of its bouncy balls and chuck it at his head and knock it out, and then start sucking it up, which I thought was a pretty cool concept. Honestly, I don't think the other main boss battles of this game do anything that special compared to this one, so this one might be one of the best from the game. Next up, we have Mega Sparkle Goomba from Paper Mario Sticker Star. And I like this one because he actually transforms during the battle, giving you different ways you have to take him out. Eventually, he'll transform into a cone, not allowing you to jump on him unless you have special metal boots or unless you use your hammer. He then has a special transformation where there'll be tons of copies of him all in a grid, and you can actually use the fan sticker in order to blow them all apart and bring them down, which I actually thought was pretty cool as he transformed throughout the entire battle, and then at the end is just one Goomba left. Not to mention, I really like the castle setting on top of this giant mountain, and also the music is phenomenal. Next up, we have Super Mario Sunshine's Petey Piranha, which isn't anything super special, but it's a really unique way to take out a boss by using water and spraying it in his mouth, tipping him over, and then doing a ground pound on his stomach, which I always thought was pretty unique. That's about as far as this goes, and I can see why a lot of people would still put this lower, but yes, I'm a little biased because Sunshine is my favorite Nintendo game and favorite Mario game, but at the same time, I thought this was a really cool opener boss. Number 12, we have the Grouchy Possessor Ghost from Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. This one wasn't just a straight up 1v1 fight boss battle, which was very unique to me. It was kind of a puzzler one, where you had to grab this web and bring it back in different segments further and further and further in order to light up the web from a torch from one of the knights, which would go all the way into the spider and knock the spider over, which, like I said, was a really cool concept. And then taking out the Possessor Ghost when he came out was also fun as well, giving that classic Luigi's Mansion suction feel. I'm gonna count Swiggler as the first main real boss from Mario & Luigi Partners in Time, and I like this one because you couldn't just blindly attack everything on stage. It actually made you sit and think for a second before attacking, because if you knocked out the wrong shroob, you could actually power up and heal the Swiggler by dropping in the wrong ingredient into his drink. So you had to hit the shroob and kill the one that had the skeleton in order to poison his drink, which was pretty interesting for a boss battle. You're fighting Swiggler, the Shroobs, and even UFOs that appear above. Now we move on to the final 10. In number 10, we have Paper Mario's Hooktail from the Thousand Year Door. This boss just had amazing scenery, like being at the top of the castle and just the whole lead up to this boss battle. Now, it is easy and can be made easier if you have a specific badge that makes a specific cricket sound that makes him actually weaker and want to even throw up. But it's just such a unique boss battle. You have this gigantic dragon on this little stage, and then it jumps into the audience and starts eating the toads in the crowd. It's crazy. And then you actually fight this boss out in the stands, which is just one of the most unique boss battles, and especially for the first one of the game. Number 9, I chose Madame Brood from Super Mario Odyssey, which is the first technical real boss of Mario Odyssey. It's a great way to get you into the whole capture mechanic and show how the capture mechanics actually work against bosses, and having Mario to turn into a chain chomp and fling it back at her face is such a satisfying feeling. And you have to keep knocking the hat off of the chain chomp in order to do so and run away from her. There's a lot that actually goes into this first boss battle and actually shows you just how fun this game is actually going to be. Number 8, we have Dino Piranha from Super Mario Galaxy. This one was just actually a lot of fun to smack his tail and watch it slingshot and smack him back in the face. It wasn't that hard, but chasing him around a little planet was something that just felt so cool for the first time and really introduced us into the whole gravity mechanic and the way the game actually even works in Super Mario Galaxy. I absolutely love this boss battle, and it is a really good first boss for this game. For number 7, I gave Petey Piranha the runway because he is slightly better. I like being able to smack his butt and just smack the egg off of it multiple times as he turned around, and then watch him run around the entire planet. And you're probably not going to catch him at least a second time, to the point where you have to meet him on the other side, and it kind of gives me a reminiscent of the Bowser boss battle from Super Mario Galaxy 1, which was really good. And for a first boss, this is a really good boss battle. Number 6, the first real boss in Bowser's Inside Story was the Sea Pipe statue, and a good first boss once again shows you how the game is going to work, and this is such a great one. It's a battle against just a statue with pipe arms, but yes, you get to punch it and beat it up with Bowser, but also suck up the statue of the blooper and take it on with the bros as well, where there's tons of different moves for this very first boss battle. And I love how Mario and Luigi just kind of beat the heck out of it, and then Bowser can spit it back out and then completely wail on it himself. I love the co-op gameplay between Mario, Luigi, and Bowser, and it just is a great first boss battle to show you how the bosses are going to work in this game. Coming in at number 5, we have Hooktail from Super Paper Mario. This boss just felt super cinematic for a Paper Mario game, and we really haven't seen much like this since then. So you start this boss battle off by just watching this giant dragon fly off in the sky in the background, and it comes at you from the background and then eventually the side of the stage. It's your job to flip the stage into 3D and then jump on its back, where it will take you into the sky, where you have to take out his antenna by picking up and throwing the enemies that you find on its back. You can also gimp this by jumping off of his tail when he's going to fly away, holding to the right, and you can land back on him again, which is just some of the coolest things to do in a Paper Mario game. How did they come up with this? I don't know, but for a first boss, it was magnificent. Coming in at number 4, we have Bowser from Super Mario 3D World. This one is just a very satisfying boss battle that actually has some difficulty to it as well for the first boss of the game. You're running down this track in the sky and kicking these bomb soccer balls at Bowser's car in order to blow it up, and it's not just a 3-hit and you're done. It actually can take multiple different hits, and it just keeps going. Like, it just feels like it's a boss battle that keeps giving, and like I said, it can be kind of difficult with some of the traps on the stage and the fireballs that Bowser shoots at you, not to mention some of the early exploding soccer balls. You really have to pay close attention and have good aim when kicking these things at Bowser, and I just found this not only a lot of fun, but very satisfying. Coming in at number 3, Paper Mario 64 opened up the game with a great first boss battle, at least the first main boss battle that is, which is the Koopa Bros. They have different phases, which I thought was such a unique boss fight and was so much fun with great music as well and atmosphere. Start off all cooped up in this giant wooden Bowser, and once you break it, you can see the Koopa Bros all pop out like the Ninja Turtles. They all use different team attacks and stances, like for instance, they all stack on top of each other for an attack, and I just think it's such a cool concept. I love the designs of these characters, the music, and even the way that the boss works with different phases. This shows you it doesn't really need to be super difficult to have a good time. This was a great way to give an opening to this game and what we could expect from the rest of the game. This boss was one of the greatest from the entire game and definitely deserves to be at the top of this list. Who would have thought colored pencils would make it to the number 2 spot in this video? Say what you want about Paper Mario the Origami King, but it has some of the best boss battles not only in Paper Mario, but in the Mario series in general. There's such a unique way to take this thing down, and you have to be very smart with how you tackle it, and there's multiple ways to do so as well. One way that you can do is just slamming your hammer on the back to close it shut, or using your hands to pry it shut as well. Then you can move towards the center when all the colored pencils are gone to take out the case itself. It's such a wacky boss battle, but man, it's so good. It even has an attack where it takes a bunch of colored pencils and rolls them up like a machine gun and starts launching them at Mario if he doesn't hurry up and take it out. So if you don't make the smartest play, you will get punished for it, which means it has lots of difficulty for a first boss as well. And to take it out, you have to make your way to a hand space and grab the colored pencils and just start jamming it into the case by beating himself up with himself. It's insane. I know technically the Earth Elemental was the first boss of this game, but this is the first main boss, if you ask me, of the chapter, and it just deserves to be up here. The best first boss for any Mario game is Fury Bowser from Bowser's Fury. Now I know this one is kind of cheap considering the fact that it's the same boss battle the entire game and you fight him in multiple different segments of your adventure, but it's the first boss battle. As soon as you jump into like the first 20 minutes of this game, you're fighting this giant cinematic climactic battle, which is just utterly insane. It feels so good to be a giant Mario actually beating Bowser up with many different attacks. You can pick up pillars and toss them at Bowser. You can smack Bowser in his stomach to knock him over. You can ground pound on his stomach. You can do so many different things in order to take him out, and I absolutely love this variety. And I want to see more things like this with future Bowser boss battles, but at the end of the day, it technically can be the very first boss of the game, and it is so unbelievably good. That was the first boss of every Mario game ranked. Let me know what your favorite first boss is, and from what Mario game would you choose? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Nintendo and Mario in general. Like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.